All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this story is another tragic, all too common story that we hear in the community of Goldsboro, North Carolina. On Monday morning, 2:30 a.m. in the morning, a 13-year-old teenager or child was shot while allegedly, according to reports, while he was committing a crime. This incident happened in the 400 block of Seymour Drive. And according to the information in the news reports and according to information that I've received from several sources, the young individual was shot while in the midst of committing a crime. Now, the newspapers say that he was shot while committing a crime. According to some sources I've read that was or have heard, the crime that he was allegedly committing was robbery. Now, I don't know all the details. I haven't spoken with anyone with firsthand knowledge of the situation, but from the information that I've received from people who are in the streets, for lack of a better word, saying that he was shot while attempting to rob another known offender, as this article suggests. Now, it says that the young 13-year-old is now in critical condition at ECU, and uh, the offender, as they call him, or the victim of the crime, is cooperating with the police. So this is a very unfortunate situation, but it is very telling of some of the things that I've talked about and several people have talked about that are wrong in the community and the community at large. And last night I had the privilege of attending a community forum on ways to stop the violent crimes in Goldsboro, North Carolina. Now, this forum was held by a community committee. Several officials were there last night. The meeting was facilitated by District 3 Councilwoman Jamie Taylor. Mayor Gaylor showed up. District 1 Councilwoman Hiawatha Jones was present. Also, the new city manager, or the interim city manager, Matthew Livingston. Councilwoman from District 4, Brandy Matthews, was in attendance. And several other community members, distinguished Mr. Charles Wright, um, Barbara Jones from the Department of Juvenile Justice, Amber Tyler, so many other members. Tavius Murphy, Raymond Smith came through. But this forum was put together to get community engagement, but also allow networking opportunities for individuals who are concerned with the upsurge of violence by more and more and more younger offenders. And so the conversation was very enlightening, but it was also very concerning, uh, considering what has not been done and what needs to be done. So there was a couple of things that I took away from this meeting. One was the relationship that the community, and more importantly, older members of the community, have with the youth. Now, Mr. Wright spoke about the need to get these young individuals, and let's be honest, a lot of these crimes are committed by young black males, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And he, Mr. Wright, uh, brought forth the suggestion of bringing, all of the young children together in what he called a lock-in, maybe using the center, the new center, or one of these recreational centers to bring all of those young men in for a night, lock the door, have certain other men, black men, reputable men in there, playing basketball, teaching them chess, talking to them, just allowing them to get away from some of those environments to get a new perspective and a different perspective on life. And I think that is something that should be done. But also, we talked about the lack of activities for the youth. They talked about back in the days we had the community building, the center, and all of these other places where young men can go. And we had, for the most part, a lot of positive male influences that was committed to engaging in the lives of some young men who may be coming from unfortunate backgrounds, unfortunate family situations, negative and toxic environments, and giving them and showing them that light, attention, and love that would prohibit them or prevent them from going that way. And I chimed in, of course, because I noticed that when we had the event last year, when we grabbed about 42 children from all across the city and we took them to the Charlotte Hornets basketball game. And I noticed on that bus that a lot of the children, they didn't know each other or didn't know each other that well. But when they got on that luxury bus and, that was able to sit back in those chairs and eat snacks and laugh and joke, I realized that a lot of those young men became instant friends. And I heard them say, well, yeah, this is my new friend right here. Even after the game, the young children, while we were waiting on the bus to come pick us up, they was all around in a circle. They were getting sturdy, as they say, dancing and everything. And it was all just a fun experience without any of the, negative influences that children so often pick up in those environments. One individual who goes to read at the Carver Reading Buddy program said that she was coloring with the child, 8 or 9 years old, and they were coloring with crayons, and he said, okay, well, he wants the red because the red represents blood, the blood gang or whatever. So that is indicative of how influential that these influences are on the young. And the age of that is getting younger, and smaller. So I imagine that young 13-year-old probably, started getting introduced or getting interested in that type of behavior from the age of 6 or 7. Like I mentioned the other day, early in the year, a young boy, probably like 8 or 9, came to my after school program with some dice in his hand. And, he was, I know he don't know, how to shoot dice and what the numbers mean or whatever, but, he said, yeah, this is how you gamble. I'm like, what you doing with those dice? So evidently he had saw some young men, in his area or whatever, shooting dice. And so that is very alluring and exciting, to a young mind. So those are the things that some of the men and actually Mr. Wright made a very valid point was we don't have a lot of men who are willing to get involved. At that meeting, it was possibly about 5 or 6 black men, and the rest of the room, of the 50 people was full of women. And he made that point, whereas we have to get more involved in these children's lives to prevent things that happen to this young 13-year-old. Another point that was brought up by one of the mothers and one of the the panelists was the importance of family, the importance of the parents as well getting involved. A lot of these parents may be younger, they may be lacking the parental skills of conflict resolution, of discipline, of things of that nature, and that just trickles down to the children. And of course, I've seen that, firsthand where, parents may, and this is just an example. One individual parent called me about, her son. And then when we went and found the son, the son was, sitting and smoking marijuana, and, the mother, smoked marijuana with the child. So that is something that, I can't fight. If the child is going, if I'm trying to teach the child a different way, but then the child is going home and smoking marijuana with the mother, then, there's no remedy for that. You can take the child out of that environment for but so long, and then when they comes back, once again, the child often lives what they learned. And another takeaway was the suspension rates. Mr. Wright mentioned the suspension rates of Carver Heights Elementary, and said that it was 235 times the normal rate. That means, every child that walks into school represents 2.5 suspensions. And once again, that is a issue that I've talked about within, several videos about how, sometimes, principals, teachers, or whoever are not equipped enough to be able to handle certain situations without just altogether sending, the child home. Also, another thing that they talked about was the school resource officers getting involved in situations where they should not be. If a child is not, won't do his homework or won't pick up his head off the desk, then, the school resource officer is called, and then, the school resource officer come and, tries to touch the child. The child, pulls back. Now you have a criminal charge of resisting arrest. And we all know that, once the child gets in that juvenile justice system, as Miss Barbara Jones said, and I hope I'm saying her name right, but she said once they get in that system, it's very rarely that they do not see the individual child again, which means they're going to be a ongoing case file for this child. And so we know about the school to prison pipeline, where once a child gets in trouble in school in that manner, then they're more likely to end up in prison. And another thing, and Chief West was also there, chief of the Goldsboro Police Department. They mentioned the lack of police, and but he said something very telling, like, we can't police this problem away. Of course, they just gave the police office or department raises for them to hire more police officers and give them higher pay. But the honest thing about that is only thing that more police officers means is more arrest. Let's be honest. That the more police officers is going to be more arrest. So that is something that we think that is going to be a solution, but may only add to the high rate of justice impacted teens or individuals in the long run. And one thing that I brought to Chief West's attention is the relationship, once again, between police officers and the community. And I use the example from my own, childhood and early teen years when I started to get into mischief. There were certain police officers who knew me. They knew my family. They knew my parents. They stayed a couple of blocks over from me. And some of those police officers I actually went to school with. And so there was a certain familiarity with them, whereas, they may see me and they may even know that I'm up to no good, but they would take the time to talk to me and try to deter or redirect me, even though, at that moment I wasn't committing a crime, but they knew, I was involved in some things that would probably end me up, or be a cause to me, being in trouble. So there was a certain respect between police officers and also children, because it wasn't like, okay, I see you out on the streets, I'm gonna stop you, I'm gonna harass you, I'm gonna search you. they're gonna come and say, "Hey man, what y'all doing out here today, man? All right, okay, now they got the warrant squad coming out there or something like that. There was not a intended purpose, or that wasn't their ultimate goal, was to go out and arrest you every time they see you, maybe in a bad spot or maybe in a bad area, things of that nature. But today we have a lot of police officers who are not from Goldsboro, who may not have grown up in Goldsboro, and who have no relationship, no affiliation with these neighborhoods, with these individuals. And that was my question to the chief is, what is he doing to recruit local, homegrown police officers from this area who have more of a relationship and more of a connection with the certain demographics, the certain neighborhood, the certain people whom they may come in contact, where it's not always okay, police against citizen or police against suspect. It's this is Jamila's son that I went to school with. So I know this individual. Oh, that's the guy who was in my mother's high school picture. I seen him on my mother's Facebook page. So he's not a bad guy just because he's the police. But I think right now we don't have that. So there's a situation when police come into those communities, that are quote unquote high crime areas, then it's automatically an us against them narrative that takes place, which again leads to lack of cooperation, lack of trust, and lack of sometimes accountability on police part, where certain instances could be avoided, certain instances could be de-escalated when they come in contact with certain individuals. So but most importantly, once again, it's a community policing effort. Once again, there's once again, I come from a different area, but even back then there was a certain level of respect where you didn't do certain things around certain people. Oh, there go Miss Jones, she walking down, put the blunt down. There go Miss Jones, don't, okay, hold on, wait a minute, don't make that sale right now. There go Miss Jones right there, let her get in the house or whatever. And so there was a certain level of respect for the community, and that goes back to the men in the community. Even sometimes if people were committing crimes and things, they would even sometimes deter the younger people from going that route. Now it's almost with the gang situation, and I'm not too familiar with that situation. It's almost a recruitment process with that, where you get older, more seasoned criminals recruiting younger people to kind of do their dirty work or get their hands dirty. So this is a problem that will not be solved overnight, but we can take steps to prevent things that happen like this young 13-year-old boy who was shot, feeling the need that he had to go out to commit a crime, to do whatever, get money. So you have to ask yourself a question: what was he doing out at 2:30? Where was his parents at? Where was his guardian at? Who was he under the care of that neglected to make sure that he wasn't doing anything out there that could harm him in the long run. So this is once again a very, very, very troubling situation. But I do commend everyone who had a hand in putting that meeting together, and also those who came out to express their opinions on possible solutions. And once again, if you do have any information to this story that I've reported incorrectly, feel free to call me 919-587-7782. Because there's definitely an issue that we all can help to solve, with the collective effort. So once again, 919-587-7782. My prayers go out to the young man and his family. Hopefully he will recover, and hopefully this is an incident that will help set him straight on the right path. But once again, You know my number 919-587-7782. Peace and blessings.